Hey everyone, today I am joined by Sarah Brischke. She is a colleague, a friend, a fellow intuitive healer, she does hypnotherapy and is a graduate of our QSM program. So welcome, Sarah. Thanks for joining us today on
Thanks
this
for having me.
talk. We're looking to begin just starting some conversations that are going to really help you to expand your spirituality, expand on your path in your own unique way. And today we are going to be talking about relaxing into expansion. And first of all, I'd like to just talk a little bit about what does expansion mean? What is expansion as far as what we're talking about here? How would you describe expansion, Sarah?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind in like trying to help, maybe newcomers like segue into expansion is like the starting point is personal growth and development. Like that was what I was aware that I was wanting to do. Um, and then as I got more and more into, understanding spirituality and energy, and started to, see what happens when you start to dig in at this level, where it's not just, used to talk about goal setting and things like that. And I'd always like meet resistance in those things because they obviously weren't what I needed to do. So for me, expansion is like one step beyond, or maybe many steps beyond, like just what personal growth and development sort of gets you. That it's more, it's not just about what's happening in your mind or making, changes to things in your physical world. So like a dietary change or, exercise or something like that. Expansion is very much more, it's at the soul level. It's at that like higher self and even your energy bodies,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot of what, the work that I do is to help people feel into that, you know, that expanded state. And it's an energetic thing, I think. Um, and that's why it's a little tricky to wrap your head around if you haven't felt it, but hopefully we can convey that what it
Oh
is
yeah.
in in conversation to some degree. It is something that's very personal and it's very unique. So
Mm-hmm.
what I experience and what you experience are two very different things. Um, but yeah, that's
Absolutely. And yeah, it's for me also like when I first think of expansion, I think of our souls coming into these bodies in this earth plane, time, space, reality. I, throughout my journey, I found like, I think the reason we're here is to expand. And every experience we have is expanding us on that spiritual depth level.
mhm,
Um, even people that don't identify as spiritual, they're still expanding. They're
mm,
still having experiences. They're having experiences that are contrasting, that show them maybe what they don't want, that shows them more what they do want. And I know for myself, my expansion really started in my early 20s when I was already a hardcore alcoholic and drug addict, unknowingly just filling that hole in my soul that really only my spirituality fit there.
Mm.
but the alcohol and the drugs numbed everything out and made it to where I don't know, it was almost like my expansion was locked.
I was just thinking, do you think it's the level of awareness of it that changed? Like as you're describing that, it's almost like the alcohol, because I, wasn't, it was alcohol and cigarettes at a sort of lower level to what your experience is, but I do very much understand that of, you use it as a coping mechanism to feel something that you don't really know is missing. But it's almost like an awareness of like, well, we're at that point in our journeys, we weren't aware of what it was or how to do it or what the tools that we needed
Yeah.
were. So we go, okay, in our 3D world, what do we reach for? What do we grab to, try and fill that hole?
Ye-
And society goes, oh, you come of age, start drinking, throws all
Yep.
these stresses at you, and it doesn't really teach you how to cope with those things in any other ways, because the even just access to information has only just in recent years with the internet become a lot easier. But I feel like it's that as we progress, we start expanding, because those things we're still expanding in, like you say, those experiences right from birth. We start our expansion
Mhm.
process. Everything we learn, everything that gets, you know, every experience, every emotion that we either feel and express or feel and don't express, that it all contributes to it. But I feel like we get to, as we're progressing, um, it's our awareness of that process that starts to,
Yeah.
and it really makes it, that then becomes, I think, a huge catalyst for um, what path it takes, where we go with our expansion as well. Because once we
Yeah.
can
And
be aware of it and watch it, then we can make more better choices to quit drinking or
exactly.
take up
And
different
that
things
kind
that are
of
going to help us.
absolutely. Yeah. And that brings me to what I was gonna ask you is what was your journey like before you were aware of your expansion, before you really did see it and start making those different choices?
Mm. I think there's elements of like, if I track back to like, say, like my early teens, I there's moments where I can clearly remember being aware of what I was learning, what I was observing, how things were affecting me. I was always a very so I was the one in the family that was told I was oversensitive and got upset about things way too easy, and I should just move on, or not be bothered like other people in my family. And but so as I got older, I'd sort of noticed that, yeah, I would look at things differently to other people. So I guess there's been little snippets of it right through, was probably end of my 20s, coming up to the end of my 20s, and I was working in a job that really stressed me a lot. Um, and yeah, I had a big turning point when I met my now partner, and because I'd never wanted kids at all, and then I got four step kids instantly, and
Yeah.
just really shifted. Um, oh, I think he's awake. He might come in. Can hear me talking about him. Um, but yeah, so that really shifted things for me, because I then went, oh, hold on, I actually want to have my own child. my career. Like I literally went from
Yeah.
I was studying an applied science degree and I was managing 25 staff in this, seedling nursery and, had this career. I was this career woman and it crumbled within 12 months. I literally just did not want to be there anymore. And I was looking for an exit strategy. And it was to say, I ended up just honestly saying, I want to have a child. And they went, yeah, that's not really going to work. So that definitely kick-started it. That was the shift in I am career person to moving out to being more than that, to go, I want to be a mum.
Mm.
And then when you actually, I actually had a miscarriage before I had my son. So that was another one. The hormones really helped a lot. the, those hormonal fluctuations that women get through all of those processes definitely um, kicked it off, and it almost felt like it actually made it because I then had another human that I was 100% responsible for. I think that too really
Yeah.
it forced me. It felt quite forced. It was like you've been somewhat aware of these things for a long time now, Sarah, and we've given you time to work these things out or like dabble in things to work on it. But now you have another human in the world. You need to get your shit together.
Yeah.
But it was literally like that. Once I knew I was pregnant, everything started shifting. And then, yeah, once he was born, so for the last 6 years has been hugely expanding. And, to So, for a bit of insight for those who, pardon me, don't know me, I have only been doing energy work since I did my level 1 Reiki in April 2022. So we're recording this in 2023. So I've not even been doing this for 2 full years. But the difference is that I went from overthinking everything, analyzing. I used to call myself a data collector. I did, analyze data for a period in my job, and I would watch and
Uh-huh.
I would scan and I would collect it. And I literally remember saying to myself one day, stressed about something, there was a problem. I can't even remember what it was now, but stressed about something. And I remember thinking, I just know if I think about this enough, if I just focus and I think about it enough, I'll be able to work it out. And I look at that now and think, oh, how little you knew back then. It is
Yeah.
literally the complete opposite, is what's true. Um, but yeah, to then come through and did my Reiki level 1 and 2 last year, just did my master's this year, and then what was it, January? Signed up for QSM.
January
Um,
through, yeah, we were studying
yeah,
together for the first 6 months of 2023 at least.
yeah, yeah.
And,
And
you know, it's so interesting, like what you were talking about, and it made me think about how there is the, like, earlier in life, we might even feel like we don't quite fit in or things are just not right, when really it's like our soul saying, hey, you're meant to do this type of stuff. And I
mm,
feel that's what came through for me when you were explaining your story, is that it's almost like the universe just picked you up and moved
mm,
you to where you're meant to be. And I had such a similar experience because I used to have that same thought pattern and process. Like if I just think about it hard enough, because my whole life it was so easy for me to just force things to happen. And
mm,
because I have a really strong will and a really, I have a lot of ideas, a lot of energy. So that worked for me a lot of my life,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was forced into it also, into this
Yeah.
beautiful expansion that now I can see the beautiful gifts in all of it. But there was some
Mm.
really hard times that forced me into that expansion. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you
And
had your
I,
own
I
experiences that led
yeah.
you there.
One of the things I was just remembering in conversation we had a little while ago, I think Alison was in it as well, and it was about how we're people who have kind of just learnt things and been able to master things quite easily. And I think that's almost like it's almost like a bit of a 3D trap of like, okay, so you do pretty well at school and you can learn things. I mean, I was never very athletic, let's be honest, but everything else, like I ended up welding at this career that I had. I started off, turned out I could weld. So I ended up built the first part of the nursery, and then it turned out that I could operate the seating machine, and I just kept learning all of these things. And I was like that in high school too. I would end up
Yeah.
sitting beside a kid in science class and I was getting A's, she was getting D's, and I would end up relaying what the teacher was saying into, language that she could understand and still got my A and helped her get a higher grade. So it's almost like there's, this sort of trickery of like, be really good at
Hmm.
this so that then you'll feel this pressure to go and, do something big. The world says, go, you have to do something big. You have to have this, career and make all this money. But then it's not fulfilling. And then, well, I mean, it's still a
Hmm.
step there. Like none of it is, it's all lessons learnt and experiences that we had to go through. But now I look at it and think, well, yeah, I can learn things, but that doesn't mean I have to. And that doesn't have to be something that disconnects me from, like, it's almost like the mind gets too busy of like, oh, there's so much that I could learn. There's so much that I could do
Hmm.
in this world. So you get caught up in, and even so like academic learning, I tried it. I started my applied science degree and I did that part-time for 3 years. Then I started an art therapy degree, which I quit not long after signing up for QSM, just a warning. But the academic side of things, just it pained me because it had no room for creativity. Even the assessment process just
Yeah.
it felt soul crushing, to be honest, because like then it's not about who I am and how I can apply my gifts. It's just about tick and flick. Can you show us that you can do this in this way? And then we will say yes. And not even any real encouragement to, or even like knowing how you can use what they've taught you after the fact. It's just like, we're just
Hmm.
going to teach you. You've got to plow through. I read a phenomenal amount of like philosophy, different literature for my art therapy degree, and some of it was fascinating, but it was incredibly heavy reading. And now, and I learned, having learnt with you, and look at how information comes to me now, there are so many easier ways. Like we do not
Oh,
have to
yeah.
spend like some of this, and to get into the comparison, so studying art therapy, probably a little bit of a segue but still feels very relevant.
Oh, yeah.
I was studying art therapy and there are so many similarities in art therapy. So it's using, meditation and mindfulness practices to connect you into your body, to develop that connection, and then you're expressing
Mhm.
what's in you, what's stored in you, and energetically. So similar with energy healing, we look at what your body and soul has experienced and what traumas and energies that you've got stored in your body that are causing you the issues that you're having right now. So whether it's relationship, career, mental health, physical health, whatever, like it's all connected. To then in art therapy, you express that out in a visual artwork. Well, in hypnotherapy, you express it out either, in metaphor and different things. But a lot of the background, and this is the beauty of your course, is that you combine all the best bits out of, say, like the therapeutic, like psychology and those sorts of things. And even
Right.
there's an element of the art in, or the artistry in, what we learn in QSM, because it's the creativity. And that was one of my favorite things. I actually remember very clearly the day that you told me, now you learn these protocols and I want you to practice these protocols, roughly as I've
Mm-hmm.
taught you, but you have ultimate creative freedom in how you use them. And to heads up, you're going to need to use your creative freedom because every
Yes.
client's going to be different. And I remember you saying, you are going to get bored if you just do the same like protocol for addiction or weight loss
Oh
or whatever
yeah.
it is. If you rattle off the exact same visualizations, transinduction techniques with every client like that, you're going to get bored. So practice tuning in, practice building that intuition so that it's every session is guided by that intuition for that person, not just going, but this is how Derrick said, this is how I was taught, this is the protocol, and this is how I should use it. And yeah, that was a huge, in QSM moment of like, say what
Yeah.
now? I can learn this thing that is, because I knew the similarities. I'd studied plant and animal biology, so I understood enough of the, what was happening in our bodies. Then I'd done Reiki, then I'd done art
Yeah.
therapy and psychology. So when I came in, I was pretty, not critical, but aware of enough things connected to go, yeah, I can see how this is connected. And it was literally joining dots for me to go, oh, so there's similarities between what a psychologist uses and what a art therapist uses and what a hypnotherapist uses and a yoga instructor. And, doesn't, there's all these
Mm-hmm.
different modalities and we're all using, the controlling the mind with the energy bodies and everything, but we just use them in slightly different ways. And that's presented, people find who they need when they need them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's anyway. I feel like I just went off on
Yeah.
some giant tangent, but
That is.
it is all related.
Oh
This is
yeah,
what happens when you
absolutely.
expand. You have these big epiphany moments, and
Yeah.
yeah, your mind relaxes enough that you can actually just connect in with what's really there instead of
Exactly.
what you think is there, what is causing you problems.
Yeah. And how would you say your expansion is different now versus before you expanded your education? So, like, was there maybe a fear to it before and now it feels different, or how has that been for you?
Oh yeah. I had a lot of anxiety most of my adult life and that overthinking things. And that even just not being connected into my body, I realized, quite recently was affecting my confidence to like make choices and actually pick a direction. I used to be, and I know I'll say I still am a good procrastinator. I used to
Yeah.
be a procrastinator when it wasn't good. Now I actually use procrastination to my advantage because sometimes it's really worth waiting because you get that intuitive sense to just wait and do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
the confidence is is a huge one, and particularly in, like, if I think back to this time last year, my confidence is like through the roof. I literally have no anxiety, no fear of anything really. I just, yeah, it's knowing now that I actually do have, and it's not control or power in the sense that, um, you're going to wield that power over someone, but I have that. Maybe it's the free will and the I don't know, connection to, my purpose, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a huge shift too, because I never used to know my purpose. Ironically, as a teenager, I used to do hands-on healing with some of my friends. My mum
Mm-hmm.
had taught me about it. So she had read Louise Hayes and she'd always done yoga. My mum had actually taught me my first visualization when I was being bullied at school once, and she had learnt probably through Louise Hayes, how to, go within, imagine yourself in a bubble and build that protection. So I did that for years, and I had looked at the two things I had looked at studying straight out of high school were counselling, and or a bachelor in arts. So it's very funny to then look at it, with the art therapy degree, but even now to go,
Yeah.
oh wow, what I'm actually doing now at 38 years old,
It's very
I
aligned.
actually I was actually aware that I had an interest in these things at 16, 17.
Yep.
So even
And
just
I have the
realizing that now
same,
is huge. To
yeah.
realize that,
I
like, my experience, so having only been, had Reiki for a year and a half, I used to discredit my skills and abilities in this realm, because I was like, oh, these other people have been doing it for 25 years or 10 years or whatever. I don't have the level of experience. And this is something that you've helped me realize too, is that, yeah, but I've been doing it. Like, I've been having experiences that have added to who I am now my entire life. And if you want to expand that out to other incarnations, well, as healers, we've been doing this. We've been
yeah.
accumulating experiences through past lives, and they come up now. Like, that's what we're healing now, is things that come up to show
Yeah.
us, our limiting beliefs. Um, and working through those has been huge, because there's, I mean, I'll be honest with the protocols in QSM. I don't use them at all in the way that Derrick really taught them, because I've,
Which is what
incorporated them.
that's perfect.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
it
what
sounds
what he
weird,
encourages.
me saying, I'm so glad you didn't use what I taught you, but that means you really get it, because
Yes.
that's how I teach is, here are those protocols, but you're a whole brilliant being,
Hmm.
and you're connected with your client for a reason,
Yep.
and you have that creative um just
Like the
leeway
creative freedom.
to,
Yeah.
you know and I always,
Yeah.
we are energy artists, and
Hmm.
that that's such a good combination for what you've been through in life, and what brought you here, and then what you're doing now is so beautiful, that it's really is using all of those strengths, and it's so aligned with
Mm.
what your higher self is
Yeah.
wanting you to do, your gift in the world.
Mm. And I think the thing, like, on the, using the protocols to, in whatever creative way. Like, I use it with my clients, absolutely, but I've also used it for a lot of the healing work I've done on myself, like for
Mm-hmm.
myself in the last 11 months. So to be able to learn how powerful how powerful our minds are wasn't sort of new to me, but it was like I kind of thought we were. Like, I kind of knew we were this powerful. But then when you actually start practicing it and start experiencing the shifts that, I've done, my own self-guided hypnotherapy sessions just in bed as I go to sleep
Oh
and go,
yeah.
okay, well, what was that protocol that we learned today? Okay, I'll track back through it and I'll just explore it, playfully as I'm going to sleep. And I
And there's
cannot
no
even,
pressure. It's like,
I can't even describe or the amount of things that I have managed to shift. And that's not to say that everybody's going to be able to do that straight away, because,
right.
it's not
Yeah.
necessarily something that instantly happens, depending on your ability to visualize and connect in. But throughout this process, that's what you learn how to do is to work with it for yourself first, so that we know, because every step of the expansion, as we know, we go, right, we've dealt with all of these, we've done all this healing work, we're feeling great, and then we're okay, let's go into this next thing. And then you expand a little bit more and these new things come up, or old things that you thought you dealt with, they come back.
Yeah.
They come back in a slightly different way because you've stretched into a new space. So to have tools on board, like, I just see this program, even for, I wish people, one day we will have people, Derrick, who come into QSM who they don't even need to be a healer. Like, you could
Right.
apply, like, even as a manager. So when I was managing 25 staff, if I had had the insight and the knowledge and the understanding of how I work, let alone how other people work, I would do so many things so differently as a manager. I would be
Mm-hmm.
able to regulate my emotions better so that I could communicate more clearly. I
Oh yeah.
would be able to notice. I mean, I was always pretty good at noticing when people weren't in a good way, and I would hone in as a healer. Then, even then, I would, go to them and I would help them with whatever that was. But you can apply this stuff, to filter out your own,
Mm-hmm.
issues that come up, your limiting beliefs, your stresses, your fears, your worries, your addictions, all manner of things. But getting an understanding of how it all works, like, I've ended up having conversations with people, and I'm realizing as I'm having the conversation, or even after the fact, I'm like, oh, I just applied a whole lot of hypnotherapy techniques in that
Mm-hmm.
conversation to just be aware. Like, given, you talk about, you know, having that, pure positive regard for people. And that's
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that you can practice even if you don't have clients. There's so much of this stuff that
Absolutely.
you can practice. You don't need to have a client in front of you to practice these things. You can practice these things with a general conversation that, you run
Absolutely.
into somebody that instead of being completely, in your own mind. um, you can actually go, okay, well, what can I tell about that person by, are they looking relaxed or are they looking tense? Because when you learn trance induction, it's all about watching
Mm-hmm.
their cues and their breathing and different things, and
Yeah.
you become aware of whether the people around you are okay or not. And even just, you're not responsible for them. That was huge for
Mm-hmm.
me. I don't have to fix everyone. But if I can hold myself hold myself in pure positive regard, firstly, it's a good start. If
Right.
I can hold myself in that space and hold my vibration nice and high and do my alignment work, you know, every day or as
Mm-hmm.
best as I can, because sometimes as a mum, I don't always do it. But if I can hold that, then my ability to help people or to have my impact on the world in general be a positive thing means that I can just go about my day. And I am more blissful and playful and childish now than I ever was, even as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I'm getting younger, not older, because you just and it's not from a point of I'm fed up and I don't care anymore, but it's like other people's opinions don't bother me anymore. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not fazed by it. I notice it. I notice if what they say affects me, but I know how to go, I need to look within because there's something there that they've,
You
you
sure
know,
take things so much less personally too, right? Like, at least for me,
mm-hmm,
when I was first learning the material that is now in the QSM course, I just remember all of these just things falling off left and right, like all of these
yeah,
expectations of that I had for myself that were like based on delusion, basically, and
yeah,
programming. And it's literally like chains just busting off. And that's what
yeah,
I saw as you were describing that. I just saw this image of
mm-hmm,
all of your chains falling off and you just being
mm-hmm,
standing strong in your light and
mm-hmm,
radiating it.
yeah. Yeah, and I think,
And
you
we,
know, how many people carry lots of, you know, we get caught up in, oh, but that person's judging me, or oh, I don't want to do that thing because, you know, I remember I did like league 10 pin bowling, and when I first started that, I hated standing up in front of everybody. And the more I did
mm-hmm,
this, and I actually did last week, and I was standing up there, and I was the first one to go up and bowl, like of the whole night. And I thought, oh, wow, there's no way I would have done this 12 months ago because I would have just waited until everybody else had gone up because I was terrified of being out there and seen and judged, or I don't even know. I don't even know what I was afraid of anymore. But it's also because I wasn't connected into my body. I was too busy worrying about everyone else, fearing everyone else, instead of just going, who gives a shit what they're doing? They're all doing their own thing. They're all focusing on their own game and their own self. And if they are watching me, it's probably from a supportive place because it's a social league and they're probably just going, oh, I hope she gets a strike. Like that's how
mm-hmm.
beautiful most people are. Um, but yeah, until you can actually, yeah, it is that stripping off all of that, you know, crap that we build up
Mm-hmm.
from society and movies and all manner of, you know, childhood
Oh
things that we
yeah.
pick up. And a lot of it, you start to realize just how ridiculous it is. Like it's so insane, the shit that we end up just carrying around with us. But it's because we don't know how to get rid of it too. That's the huge thing, and that's why,
That's
you know,
it.
um, yeah, studying something like this, it's not just for healers. That's the huge thing. It's not just for people who want to do healing work. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, you know, if you want to be a healer, then yes, it's brilliant, but it can also change so many other aspects of your life as well.
Oh yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's not just about setting you up for a business and to make money. It's very much personal, and that ripple effect of when we do our own personal work, it affects your
Mm-hmm.
family, your friends, your community, anyone that you interact with. Um, and if you're,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
if you're aware, if you're aware of the ripple effect and how it, you want to help the world, then these kind of, programs are so beneficial.
I would say, this stuff it's nothing new. This is ancient, like based on, really, it's based from shamanism. But
Yeah.
then I also brought in a lot of Western psychology. I brought in
Mm.
hypnotherapy. I brought in pranic healing because I feel like there's so many different things that were created to help people, and putting them together in this way is just so powerful because all of this stuff has stood the test of time, has
Hmm.
goes very deep. It's not for the faint of heart either. And I think that's the
Yeah.
other piece. It's like, yeah, it could improve your life immensely, but it's only for those that are ready, because they're the only ones that can really be there and show up for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, on that, that's the other part that I, really enjoyed about the process, especially after doing really heavy reading in art therapy studies. The I don't want to say, well, it's deep, but it's not like wading through
Yeah.
mud. Like the way
Mm-hmm.
that the program is done, as you work through each module, it's digestible. And it's almost like I just got the image of like rabbit holes of like, it's like there's
Mm-hmm.
like a whole rabbit warren underneath. And it's like Derrick just goes, okay, let's go and have a look. We're just going to have a look down the top
Yeah.
of this hole. We're not going down there because that would take up way too much time.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it's almost like you just open
Yeah.
us up to different things. So there's many things. There were some things in the course that I went through and, oh yeah, I can see how that makes sense, but it wasn't something I went and did research on afterwards. Whereas there were
Mm-hmm.
other things that popped up that were like, it's like, oh, here's that rabbit hole, was like, oh my God, either I've never heard
Yeah.
of that before, or oh, I've never thought about it in that way. So then outside of the class, I could choose which things I wanted to delve into deeper. Whereas with a lot of academic things, they would delve into each one of those rabbit holes in
Mm-hmm.
depth. And by the end of it, you're so disorientated, like you've lost, it's almost like you lose you're
The
joining the dots
joy and
to make
yeah.
you lose sight of the bigger picture while you're down the rabbit hole, don't
Mm-hmm.
you? Because you
Oh
imagine it's like a
yeah.
dot to dot puzzle picture, and as you join the dots, you get to the end and go, oh wow, look at that, that's amazing. But in a lot of academic things, it's like, yes, over the whole thing, you're joining all these dots, but as you go
And
into
then you're
each
just
rabbit hole,
exhausted.
yeah, you're in there for so long and you go, what am I even doing here? And you might be lucky to have, you might have moments where you come back out and go, oh, that's right. That's why I'm studying this whole big thing. But for me, I actually went, I don't have time for this shit. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't say that. But I
Yeah,
was like,
no.
because I felt, and especially in energy healing, I don't know about, it may not apply to everybody, but I know a lot of the healers that I'm talking to lately, and you're feeling it with why you want to push QSM out there. There is an energetic push. I've felt like I have had this loving, beautiful hand, probably Archangel Michael, just to give him a bit of credit. Um, I felt like I've had this loving hand in the middle of my back for the last
Mm-hmm.
18 months, just going like, okay, you're here now, but don't dilly dally, don't procrastinate, Sarah. You
Mm-hmm.
need to move. You need to be moving forward, and don't worry about going. You don't have to go down every rabbit hole. Like that's what I
Yeah.
keep. feeling of just go along, try different things out, see what works for you, see what things you like. And it's almost like going grocery shopping of like, well, I can try that out and I might put sauerkraut in and I might like it. It might sit in my fridge for a while, but it's there. And that's the beautiful thing with QSM is that you touch on so many different aspects of the human condition, of why we are the way we are, and then how to work with it, not against it. And it's incredibly beautiful. It's also incredibly liberating and empowering as somebody studying it, because then I know that too. And then I feel confident in that to go, oh, I can do that. Do you want to say hi to Derrick super quick? Macy's just woken up. Are you being shy? But yeah, it is hugely empowering.
Hi, buddy.
Okay, hi.
I saw the fake movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's like you are opened up, just like you said. It's like those rabbit holes open up, and then it's up to you how you expand next. It opens all this up. But
and
I think
the other
also,
I was just going to say,
go
the other
ahead.
thing that I used to feel, because you'd asked before about like, what was I like before this process? I used to fear change, and I used to fear Macy. Used to fear that opening up. It was like it was being exposed, or like a sensitive, tooth or something that needed to be like fixed and capped, of like, no, that's too much because I was too sensitive. But that's where, like, even without doing, even if you're not Reiki attuned and you did this program, like, you teach so many like the energy alignment rituals that we do very, very early on. You teach those things as like the self-care, to go, well, you are going to open up, you are going to expand, but you do not need to be fearful of that. You can have one of those for the weekend. But yeah, that you don't need to be afraid of what's going to happen when you open up, because while you're opening up, you're also learning, and it's not about protection from anything bad. It's about building your own energy system, clearing and building your own energy system to the point where we become so strong and radiant that we know. And that's where the confidence comes from. I think the confidence is,
absolutely,
I don't need to be afraid of anyone else's energies around me. Even to the point, someone said to me about, they didn't want another practitioner of, I don't know if it was a different Reiki modality or something, but they were feeling fearful. It's great. I don't want to taste it because I'm talking. Taste it. That yeah, they were fearful about somebody else doing Reiki on them from another like type. So like, say it was Usui to like holy fire or whatever. And I remember thinking, why are you afraid of that? Like, don't you have the skills? And that's the cool thing about this, is like, no, build up your own energy to the point where nothing else is going to get in, because you're so radiant, so vibrant, and you're confident that you know how to deal with things as they come up. So yeah, the lack of fear around change is huge, because now going into expansion going forward, it's all just exciting. Like it's like going to a theme park or something. Like every day it's like, ooh, what are we going to do today? Because instead of, you know, waiting for once a year when something big might happen. I know, like
Yeah.
anything could be around the corner. Who knows what the next incredible thing is, even if it's, you know, a breakthrough with something in the family, or, you know,
Hmm.
helping a friend, and you go, oh wow, I just got to help them.
Absolutely. And also, if anyone is listening and you want to get involved, you can reach out to either Sarah or I, and we can give you more information about the program. Some people learn, and everyone learns in their own unique way. So, one of the things that we are doing in QSM now is graduates who have really mastered the skills and who have really, really expanded, like Sarah, are now going to be able to help you through this process and be your personal mentor. So, um, definitely reach out if that's something that is calling to you. If you're feeling that intuitive pull that this is a time for you to expand either in your own healing, or you want to learn all these techniques and protocols to heal yourself, you're also going to learn all of the skills to help other people heal, and then ultimately take that out into the world and share your light through service, through business. There's so many ways that you can make this living and breathing love and expansion. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being a part of this, and for it's just been so incredible being on this whole journey with you. And I've expanded so much. I know you've expanded so much, and now we're gonna expand the world. So
Yeah, no, it's very exciting indeed. And that's just quickly the other thing with, you know, reaching out if you're curious, is also to trust your intuition, or like notice if there's any resistances, because I had some. Can I tell the story of how you and I
yeah.
came to? So I had noticed Derrick and another friend of ours, Christian, in a Reiki group, would have been just over 12 months ago. And I noticed that they were very active, and I sort of went, oh, okay, who are these guys? And sort of kept an eye out. And then I'd actually had a really random dream that Derrick was in. And the dream was he rocked up at a friend's house. So I'm in Australia, so it's not even physically possible. But I felt like I needed to tell him about this dream, which was bizarre because I had no contact with this person at all. So I did. I just said, hey, I just need to tell you, I randomly had this dream and you were there at this party. And then it would have been a few months later, we'd started chatting from that. And I think you'd mentioned QSM, but I was skeptical. And I was like, I don't know who you are. I'm not
Of
sending
course,
money all
yeah.
the way over to the other side of the planet. I do not know who you are. But from that, I think that was in about September. But from that point, I then noticed even more. So I watched and I watched and I watched, and I could see what you were putting into the Reiki group and different things. I observed myself over time, your dedication to, no, thank you. Stop, please. We are recording. Stop, please. I'll be with you in a minute, okay? Yeah, so I had huge like resistance and skepticism, but I remember when you sent me through the list of what was in it, and I read it and I just went, that's everything I need. I'm like, oh yes, yes, yes. I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that is, but I want to learn that. And I honestly had no I had no income when I started QSM. I had no money. I had no idea. I did not even know how I was going to pay for it. And we talked just after Christmas, and I was like on the fence, and I was like, oh, I really want to, but I don't know how I'm doing this. And I think I gave myself like 3 days. I said, look, just give me till the new year, because I just needed some time. And in that 3 days, I was like, well, I really want to do this. I don't want to add it to my partner's, I didn't want him to have to work to pay for it. I was like, and I went, oh, so I started doing kids' art classes once a week. And that and was like, well, I need to make money from my Reiki. So I built that a little bit and pushed through that resistance, because money was it was an excuse. And I recognized that it was an excuse. And because, you'd offered the payment plan to go, okay, well, break it down. If I can pay this once a month, what is that once a week? How do I come up with that amount once a week? Which is a challenge, because even the exchange rate, so it did cost me slightly more than what it is, because the exchange rate from me to you is not so great. But it was perfect, because it forced me to get more clients in my Reiki business. It forced me to, get into, being committed to it. But yeah, I was hugely skeptical. So there may be stuff, just forewarning, if you have a strong pull to do this, and then all of a sudden you're like, ugh, can't do it, too many things. Well, still reach out, because there's actually things that, even just in conversation, that just talking to somebody about what those things are can be hugely shifting. That let alone if you dig right into it and, book a session with Derrick and I, just as a working through it kind of thing. But to trust your intuition, to go, if I'm feeling pulled to this, and it's a yes, I want to do this, but there's X, Y, and Z that's in the way, don't be disheartened. Just work through the X, Y, and Z, or start through with X. Don't worry about Y and Z. Just work through X, then work through Y, then work through Z. And by the time, because then you're actually choosing, well, I'm going to start expanding myself before I even go into that thing. And the universe will provide for you. The universe will see that you're committed and you're dedicated, and it will reward you. It will reward you in all sorts of ways. So yeah, anyway, that's my final little piece. So
yes, and
beautiful.
Just one last thing before we close. To get a hold of me, go to dgtwellness.com. You can also, there's a link there to schedule a call with Sarah. There's a link to schedule a call with me. So definitely there's that way. And then what are some other ways that they can get a hold of you, Sarah?
So probably through my Facebook page is the easiest
And
way. It's
same
Create
here.
Healing. Yeah, so Create Healing on Facebook. So create _ healing 333 on Instagram. But yeah, those are the best ways.
No pressure, no,
No,
we're not going to
not at
pressure
all.
you. We're going to help you understand what's best for you so you can make the best decision that is right for you and your journey. But I think with all this talk of expansion, how can you and your life stop playing small? And I think that pretty much sums it up. So we will see you all soon. Thanks
Beautiful.
for
Thank you.
being here. Bye.
Bye.